and I questioned God. I spoke to God myself.
I'm able to trust more in God than in myself, and it's because He's proven to show up.
And then boom, I gave my life to God, and yeah, the rest is history.
Even though you may feel that it's right, it's not right in God's eyes, so you have to sacrifice that too.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you all. Welcome to From Crisis to Christ. I'm very excited to be hosting this very special episode as I am going to be just sharing a bit of my testimony. As of course, I've been hosting and asking the questions of others about their own personal testimonies. I felt it necessary to kind of give you a little snippet into just some of the things that I've dealt with and that I've overcome by giving my life and my full um, everything over to the Father. So, I've for a long time did battle with alcohol and with smoking weed. I know it's crazy. A lot of people don't believe me when I tell them that I was a previous smoker and actually indulged in drinking, sometimes quite heavily. And yeah, it was something that I dealt with for a long time that I also quite enjoyed as well. Um, I didn't actually start smoking until I was about 21 when I was introduced to weed. Not for the first time. I was introduced to weed, like I had known it was always around me as a youth, but it was never something that I felt interested in because I seen people around me growing up smoking and stuff. So I wasn't really interested in smoking. But of course, everybody did it throughout high school. And when I turned 21, I was already in college. I kind of felt like I wanted to see what it was all about, I guess. And I was dating this guy at the time, and he was like, just try it, whatever. And so I ended up trying it, and I fell in love with weed. Alcohol, I did fall in love with alcohol at an early age. I could remember drinking when I was pretty young. Like my dad used to give us like a sip of his beer, which was disgusting. So I didn't really like beer, but alcohol, we snuck sips here and there when adults were around having a little party. Wine and stuff like that. I used to, sneak sips of. Um, I could actually remember the other day I was thinking about it, and I remember going to the grocery store, and me and a couple of friends from high school would actually, they had these little coolers that were like 0.05% alcohol. And for some reason, they sold them at the grocery store and they would allow us as kids, minors, to purchase them. So we used to drink those and pretend that we were getting drunk. And I mean, as we got a little bit older, we started going to, house parties and stuff like that where alcohol was available, and I would just drink. And even into college, drinking and smoking became buddies of mine. They paired together very nicely for me. I enjoyed being able to kind of let loose, feel free, and forget the things that I was dealing with at home, forget things that I had dealt with in the past, different traumas and stuff like that. So it was actually kind of like an escape for me. Moving on, as I got older, I got into a serious relationship. I ended up getting pregnant. And as soon as I did get pregnant, I remember finding out that day that I was pregnant, and the taste of alcohol and weed just left my body. Um, and for the entire time that I was pregnant, I never craved it at all. I didn't want to smoke. I didn't want to drink. I was excited to bring this new life into the world. And so that was its own time. There was an excitement there. And then after having the baby, I felt like a need to smoke and drink again. It was like, I don't know, like real life took over and maybe I was feeling overwhelmed. That's something that I actually haven't really been able to do throughout my entire life, was address the feelings that I have properly. Like feelings will come up. I'm not exactly sure what I was feeling at the time. I just knew that I didn't want to feel it, whatever it was. And I used to mask that with the weed and the alcohol because it allowed me to feel good for a certain period of time. There was a lot of times when the alcohol got too much and I would drink so much that I was happy at first, but then it ended up making me feel really sad because I would start thinking about stuff. I would think about my past. I would think about things that went wrong, opportunities that I didn't get, and it ended up not being so great of a feeling. Fast forward, I'm a mother of three, have three children. I'm in this somewhat of a toxic relationship with their father, so back and forth, breaking up, making up. Um, a lot of things in that relationship that were not something that I would want to deal with. But again, the weed and the alcohol helped me to kind of push through in that relationship. And I can say now, I was thirsty to be a happy home. I really wanted to have that family. I wanted to have the mother and the father and the children all together in one home. Despite what it looked like on the inside, I wanted it to have a certain appearance for the outside. And so I would almost do anything to keep that together. And so within that relationship, there was um, a, a, a a yearning for me to want to be married and to want to keep this family together despite everything toxic that was going on. So, and unfortunately, the alcohol and the weed got to a point where I just realized that it was the alcohol and the weed, or it was me and the children, like that were it was that it was him, alcohol and the weed, or me and the children. And I had to make a tough decision to actually kind of slow everything down. And that could only come with the Lord. There was absolutely no way that I would have been able to quit smoking or drinking without the help of the Lord. And of course, the Father has always been someone in my life that I knew that I could draw close to at certain periods of time. I've always done that. But I kind of used the Lord before. I would use him in certain circumstances where I needed his help and I wanted him to get me out of some kind of trouble. Um, it was very, I had a toxic relationship with the Lord. It was me. I thought that I could just use him and on him. In certain circumstances, I wanted him to help me, and he did a lot of the times. Um, but there was um, a point that things became extremely toxic for me. I got into a car accident. Um, I lost my job. I lost a business. I didn't really lose the business. I actually gave it up. And I gave it up because I didn't feel as though I could manage. It was hard at a certain point to balance the alcohol, the weed, the children, the man, the household, and work. I was running a business. I was teaching. I had a whole bunch of different things going on, and I was trying to multitask, doing everything, and I couldn't do that because I was drinking too much and I was smoking too much. And anybody who smokes weed knows that, you're tired all the time when you smoke. It does make you kind of lethargic. So I was trying to balance that, and but I'm not a lazy person. So even though I would smoke, I still wanted to get things done. So I would be trying to get things done, and but I still wanted to be happy while I was doing everything, even though I was going through so much at home. So I was drinking to build up that feeling, that feel good feeling. And it all came crashing down. So I got into an accident, and then I was immobile. I wasn't able to drive around to do what I had to do because I had totaled my car, and I was looking for somebody to pretty much help me. And I had built relationships, even with friends, some of the family members that I actually, you know, um, got to help me out, to help me with this business. And I used them, and it wasn't on purpose that I used them, but it was just through my addiction to this weed and alcohol that I ended up using them for my benefit so that I can drink more and smoke more while they helped me do and take care of my responsibilities. And I only really realized what I had done afterwards. But at the time, everything kind of came crashing down. I ended up having to give up the business. I stopped working and I ended up staying home. I did give an excuse that I wanted to be home more with the family, but really I just couldn't manage anymore. There was just so much going on that I couldn't handle. And I will never forget one day I was at home doing dishes, just, depressed, thinking about my life, thinking about what I'm supposed to do with my life, thinking about why I'm here on earth, thinking about just, how I could have brought these three children into this world and how much of a terrible mother I am. And, thinking about all the different things that happened to me growing up as a young person, a young lady, getting older and just wondering and trying to figure things out. And I was listening to a podcast because I started listening to these different podcasts, researching and trying to figure out how I could change the thoughts in my mind. Something that have always plagued me as a young person. I always had intrusive thoughts, think thoughts of just some crazy things. And I really wanted to learn how to control them. So I started listening to all these different speakers, all these different coaches on YouTube, and I was listening to Les Brown, and I can't remember which one of his speeches it was, but he asked the question, or he posed the question, like, when would you know that you had your life, like you got everything that you were looking for? How would you know? What would your life look like? Like, starting to ask these questions, and I really started to ask myself, like, how would I know if I'm happy with my life? Like, what would make my life happy? What would make me happy? What is my life? Like, what am I doing? And I broke down. I started crying and I basically just cried out to the Lord and I asked him, for help because I knew I needed help. I just didn't know how I was going to figure this out. And so I always said to myself, oh, if I want to stop smoking weed, I could stop in a day. It's not nothing. I tried it before, but I couldn't stop. I pretended to myself like, oh, yeah, I could stop if I want to, but I don't want to. I'm just going to smoke. But really, I was addicted to smoking. Even drinking, I would go a couple of days without a drink. I would limit myself and say, I'm only going to drink on weekends. But then something would happen during the week. And I'm like, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to go get a drink right now and I'll be fine. Everything is going to be good. I can quit if I want to. And so that day I decided, that I'm going to actually put this stuff down and push myself to really do the best that I can at everything and really try. And I remember thinking, to myself, making a plan, making a schedule of what I'm going to do. And they said if you give something negative up, you have to replace it with something positive. So I started working out, and I gave up weed and alcohol cold turkey. And that was really the first time that I had tried it. I did cry out to the Lord that day, but I never really submitted to the Lord that day. So what happened after a little while, I had one rough day. I woke up in the morning, I was like, "Ugh, I don't feel like working out anymore." And I went right back into the same thing, a slump. I had gotten a job. There were so many great things that happened when I had pushed myself. So I was working out. I had stopped drinking, I had stopped smoking, and then I had gotten a new job and then I lost the job. And then I stopped working out and I had started smoking and started drinking again. And then I started researching about, um, generational curses and things that happen that, you know, are a part of your bloodline because I'm like there's something wrong. I started looking at different signs, like looking at my aunts and uncles and my cousins and different things that are happening to them in their personal relationships at their workplaces and kind of seeing a connection that was happening in my own life. And I'm like, this can't be a coincidence, that certain things are affecting them and the same things are affecting me. And then going back in the bloodline, looking at my grandparents and my both on my mother and father's side, and just trying to figure out like what the connection was. And then I started listening to people like Pastor Kevin L.A. Ewing and some other pastors online, and really realizing that I needed to build a relationship with the Lord. That's what I needed to do. And that was going to be the only way that I was going to be delivered. Because if I had dug into his word, then I'm actually going to find deliverance for myself. And so that's what I did. I started reading the word. I woke up in the morning and before I said I'm going to do my exercise and I'm going to eat properly and I'm going to, make my schedule for the day and adhere to that. And I actually started it off with the word, and I started researching how to make sure that I built a relationship with the Lord, what that looks like. And it's really just spending time with the Lord and confessing your sins to the Lord and talking to Him, and allowing yourself to have that time with Him. A lot of people say they're in their prayer closet or wherever that they spend that time with the Lord, but it's really everywhere. I realize it's when you get up in the morning, it's doing your dishes, it's taking your shower, it's making food, it's cleaning your house, it's going for a walk, it's when you're at work, it's when you're going to the washroom. It's like at all times when you're going shopping, like everything in your day should be incorporated with the Lord. And I was able to successfully quit smoking weed, and I haven't smoked since. And it's been a couple of years that I haven't smoked. Drinking, I actually moderated my drinking, so I was only drinking on special occasions. And then I actually quit cold turkey drinking as well. So that could have only happened, and this all happened like I put it down in a day. Like, so I decided today that I was going to stop, and tomorrow I stopped. And there was no thirst for the alcohol. There was no thirst for the weed. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some days where I'm like, a spliff would really be nice. Or I remember having a drink and how nice it could feel, or even just being out socially and at parties and at weddings and certain events where everybody's drinking and I'm just not having a drink but still having a great time. I said to myself, this could only be the Lord, that He has helped me to get through all of these different events without feeling like I'm missing out on something, because that's normally how I would feel. And so to this day, I realize that I have my ups and downs, and there are days where I do feel like drinking or I do feel like smoking, but it's a thought that I can cast down. And that's really important. And the only way for us to get through and to even be delivered, I feel like it's important to have, accountability partners, those people that are in your corner that'll be able to let you know when you are dropping the ball or you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Those people are great. But at the end of the day, you have to make the commitment to yourself to follow the word of God and to actually continue to push yourself into this life work, because this journey is not something that is a be all end all. You say it today, it's going to happen and you're good to go. No, it is work. I call it life work. It's something that I feel like for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to make sure that I am on the ball with myself, that I maintain this. Yes, I'll have highs and I will have lows, but at the end of the day, like I speak to the Lord and I let Him know, like, I'm not going anywhere else. There's nothing else I could do. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to be here. Today's a rough day for me. And, this is what's happening and this is how I'm feeling. And that's another thing is being able to address my feelings and actually sitting with myself and figuring out, what is this that I'm feeling? And I realized as a young person, I wasn't given time to process my feelings. If something happened, I wasn't, you're not really allowed to cry, or if you're crying, you go to your room and cry. Um, Being happy, if you're too happy, you're going to cry at the end of the day. If you're always sad, you're miserable. Like, so there was never any, why is this happening? Like, why are you feeling this way? Or trying to assess what those feelings were, because they were always bottled up or shut down. So now as an adult, I have to really look at myself and be like, okay, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling nervous about this, but why? Let's pedal back and try to figure out where this feeling started and why it's happening. And that's something that the Lord has also taught me, is to sit with myself a little bit more and be more patient, because all of these things that happen in your childhood, they do transfer and they affect how you deal with your children. So I've learned so much just reading the word. And I've even had to learn about different ministers and different pastors online and in person that you can learn from. There's so many people that, when they're willing to be truthful and let you know that they have struggles, because at the end of the day, we all do. Um, and the importance of not placing them on a hierarchy that is higher than the Lord, then you're good to go, because we're all man, and man will fall, man will have good days and bad days, and we will sin because that's what we do. But if we confess our sins, then he is just to forgive us. So I really just want to encourage anybody that is watching this testimony. First of all, I felt like it was so hard to tell this testimony. It took me so long to actually be able to even speak this. And this is just a part of my testimony. This is just a part of some of the great things that the Lord has done for me. He's transformed my life in so many different ways just because I was obedient to him when he told me to put the bottle down and to put the spliff down. And I listened because I know that if you don't have him, you don't have anything. Literally, life is not worth living if you're not living it or trying to live for the Father and at least please Him and make Him happy. And as children, that's what we live for. Your kids are always trying to make you happy if you have children, or as a child, you may remember trying to do things to make your mother or your father happy, or your guardian or whoever, your elder, somebody to make them proud of you. And so really, I just want to encourage anybody and everybody to try to live your life in such a way that we are making our Father in heaven happy, that He's looking down and saying, yes, okay, Ellie, she's doing the thing. Or, for yourself, yes, he or she is doing that thing that I asked them to. And He knows how hard it is. He knows everything. He knows our struggles. He understands, and sometimes it's hard for us to understand why we have to go through certain things or why we're feeling certain ways, but we just have to remember that um, we may suffer right now, or we're crying right now, or we're hurt right now, but tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow there will be joy in the morning. So I want to encourage everybody to dig deep into reading your word and building a relationship with the Lord and building an altar to the Lord as well, having your special places where you have conversation with Him, and it doesn't have to always be there. For me, I've learned that wherever you sit down with the Lord, often you're building an altar there. So if it's on your bed, if it's in your bedroom, at your desk, if it's in the shower, if it's in your car, if it's at your desk at work, if it's around your dinner table with your family, on your couch in the living room, in your kitchen when you're cooking, in the basement, in your man cave or your girl cave or whatever, your woman cave, um, at the gym, wherever on your walks. It doesn't matter where, and you can have several places as well. Um, just build that altar to the Lord and be consistent with staying with Him and hanging out with Him and sharing things about your day and being inquisitive as to what He wants from you. And I promise you that He will share things with you. And you already know this. He doesn't tell you anything before He tells somebody else. Try your best to listen to Him, because listening to Him is only going to yield the best results for you. So I want to encourage everybody to try Jesus, because He does not fail. He does not fail. And this is just a part of my testimony. I definitely will share some more information, some different parts of my testimony as time goes on. But I just want to thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you tuning into From Crisis to Christ. It has taught me so much. I hope that you're learning different things from this journey as well. And I hope it edifies and benefits you as the body of Christ. Thank you so much.
And I questioned God. I spoke to God myself.
I'm able to trust more in God than in myself. And it's because He's proven to show up.
And then boom, gave my life to God, and yeah, the rest is history.
Even though you may feel that it's right, it's not right in God's eyes, so you have to sacrifice that too.